Welcome back, guys. We are about 1 hour away from the kickoff of UMG Nashville. Chris Puckett and Kingdom Soldier here bringing you the UMG Nashville bracket show. And we're into Pool C, the group of death, the one that everyone's been talking about since rumors first started that this would be the pool to watch. Evil Geniuses, your Season 1, Season 2 champions, the kings of Call of Duty Ghost, if you just compare their record versus everyone else, facing off against the X Games gold medalist Optic Gaming, and a squad that has been wrecking everyone online in Rise Nation. So Kingdom, let's kick this one off. The open bracket team here might be Colchan, TJ Halley, Perplexed, and Vexed. And even though this is one of the best amateur teams out there, I think it's safe to say that we're both going to put these guys at number 4.
Correct.
So Rise Nation is the next question. A team that has looked incredible online. Attach a ridiculous slayer for this squad. Looney, one of those guys who, again, doesn't get the credit he deserves as a slaying champion. One of the best with the Vector in the game right now. And then you got Wheats and Pac-Man. Pac-Man's going to be doing that TP-like OBJ work on this squad. But this team, can they perform on land this weekend? Something that they haven't been able to do outside of the Season 2 play-in tournament and COD Champs, where they finished top 8, we should remind people.
If you ask their players, they would probably say they're going to win this event, but this is another case of what happened to Noble in the last pool. They're in a pool with Optic Gaming and Evil Geniuses. And although EG did not play at Dallas, although EG placed outside of the Season 3 playoffs, unfortunately, EG has a 1.78 average placing over like the last year and a half. That is ridiculous. And so
1.78.
1.78. It doesn't even make sense that that's possible over the life of like 15 to 16 events. But that stat alone, going up against Rise, you said it in your introduction of them as a team. They are a great online squad. And I don't want to call them online warriors or anything like that. But I think at LAN, with the two teams that they're going up against, they're going to be third, which we would all predict. However, if they were in a different bracket, again, if they were in the Delta, they could take TK's spot. They could take FaZe's spot. They could step up and maybe finish second and be in a higher placing in this tournament. And it does have, the pool play is going to have that much of an impact. And I like it because it makes pro points matter, but it also it makes it important that you're gonna have to beat a top team if you want to finish in a good placing in this tournament. But then after that, outside of first place in each of these pools, everybody has a chance. And so Rise is going to have a chance in that losers bracket. They're probably going to beat a couple of teams in there and push themselves forward a little. But as far as the pool goes, I have them finishing third.
I got them at third as well. And unfortunately, I know, like you said, I think if they were in a different group, different result. Here, though, I'm going with just mental stability and kind of experience here. We've seen Attach play on LAN. He performed extremely well playing with Curse at X Games. Really had just one of the best games ever in Search and Destroy that we all were privileged to watching. Then you talk to someone like Pac-Man. He's not going to be intimidated by Optic Gaming, by Evil Geniuses. But I think the young guys on this team, you don't want to admit it, but there's a bit of a head game when you step up to the plate against someone of the caliber of Evil Geniuses and Optic. Yeah. I think the other two teams are going to be more confident. Confidence is everything at this point in the game, where it comes all down to vectors and who's got the gun skill at the moment. I got Rise Nation at number 3, but now it comes to the controversial portion, and this is where you and I disagree. I'm just going to jump right into it. I have Evil Geniuses winning this pool. Why? They have nothing else to play for. This is their last tournament in Ghost. They want to go out with a big win, and I have this team ranked higher than probably everyone else coming into the tournament with their overall placing. TP and Aches, they started strong together. They're going to finish strong. Crim6, a true competitor. We've seen his emotion pouring out in social media everywhere. He wants to do nothing but win. He hates losing. He hates what's happened to this championship caliber squad. He wants to be back on top. You saw him dropping numbers this week in the COD League, fighting for their lives to get into the playoffs. And then Aches, love him or hate him, Aches is one of the best slayers in the game. When he turns it on, especially at LAN, there is no one who can compete with Crim6 and Aches when it comes to slaying. I was doing the math earlier, and I was trying to find two people who could potentially match up against these two. I couldn't find it. The question is, can Dito just go even this weekend or carry his own weight? There's no karma here, and Dito is going to have a lot of eyes on him. He's just got to buckle down and don't worry about any of that. He's just got to play his game, play like Dito did when he was on Strictly Business, play like Dito did, when we see him at his best, when he is just confident. And I would love to see him pull out the assault rifle a little bit more this weekend. I don't know if we're going to see it, but if he does get comfortable with the Remington again, I think they're going to have a bit of a different story on their Sovereign, because that is a map they've been struggling on recently. Kingdom, go ahead and destroy me with your Optic Gaming prediction now. The chat is already saying, F you, Puckett. There's no way it's going to happen.
Well, here's why. And I'm going to bring up rosters a couple of times in this show today, because I know it's on everybody's mind. What's going to happen? Is roster mania going to kick in immediately following, and who's going to go where? And once the season playoffs are over, where are all the changes going to take place? This is either EG's first event as a team or their last event as a team. And so this is either the first event for this squad, and they have to have a pretty high placing in order to stick together, or maybe even first might be the only result that, because for Crim6 was in an interview and he had his medal from the X Games and he pulled it out of his bag, and the guy was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool, bronze medal." And he was like, "Well, I keep it in my backpack all the time." And the guy said, "Why?" And he said, "It's motivation." He said, "Because this isn't acceptable. To a guy like Crim6 and to a guy like Aches, anything other than first is unacceptable. And if they don't finish first, I think they're going to really struggle. And when they lose to Optic Gaming 3-2 or 3-1 when they play each other, it is going to mentally shock them. I want to give you two statistics, just two, that really fuel my opinion. Number one, Optic Gaming outslayed their opponents in respawns 90% of the time at Dallas. 90%. The next team below them outslayed their opponents 71% of the time, and that was Denial. 90% of the time they outslayed. And the reason is because Optic Scump and Optic Nadeshot were both top 5 slayers, or they both had top 5 KDs at the event.
Nade went off.
Yeah, they went off. And when you have Nadeshot stepping up like that, when you said who are two guys that can go up against, Nadeshot and Scump may not have the kills per respawn to match Crim6 and Aches, but if Nade continues to do what he does in S&D, and if he steps up and plays like he had the most dom caps on his team, if he steps up and plays like he did at Dallas, if Clayster can maintain like he did at Dallas an over 1 KD, Proofy can maintain an over 1 KD, and Scump and Nade, who both were top 10 in multiple categories at that event, Optic Gaming is going to be one of the best teams at this event, and I think if you take off Attach, if you guys are looking at the stats, you have to remove Attach because he only played a couple of maps. Remove his KD, and you have two top 5 kill death ratio players on the same team. And I think that duo that is now, happy together again, I think that duo is going to go well. Scump just moved into his girlfriend's house. He's happy. This may be one of those events where Scump just goes off. He's the number 1 slayer. And remember, Scump, Crim6, Saints, and I don't remember who the 4th player is, are all tied. I believe it might be Karma. It is Karma. Are tied for LAN KD for Call of Duty Ghosts. And the question is, who's going to land on top? And I see Scump wanting to be number 1. He wants to leave that event with the highest kill death ratio as the best slayer. And so Optic's going to go off. It's going to be one of those events where Greenwall fans are actually going to get to cheer and not be booed because they're, trying to fight with somebody. So I think this is going to be a great event for Optic. And EG, they're going to be second in the pool, but that's going to affect their mentality, their mental game, and I have them losing to someone else later in the losers bracket.
Now, I don't want to start too much controversy, chat. I'm coming at you. But let me just point out a few things. Nadeshot and Scumpy were in the top 5. But there was a team missing from UMG Dallas that could have shook up those rankings, Mr. Kingdom Soldier. There was no Evil Geniuses. There was no Crim6 or Aches to be in that top 5. or to bring down their numbers. Also, Optic Gaming, they were doing great, outslaying everyone 90% of the time. You still lost 3-1 to Most Wanted. And that means you lost at least 2 respawn games.
That's true.
So I'm not sold on Optic Gaming, and the reason I have EG here is motivation. What is motivating Optic other than $15,000 in first place? They don't have a whole lot of expectations on them right now. They played great through Season 3. There's a $75,000 tournament 2 weeks away. What does Evil Geniuses have to look forward to? Advanced Warfare in November. This is going to mean so much more to Aches and Crim 6 than it will to anyone on Optic Gaming. And I know Optic always is going to play with pride and always, always bring it, especially against their rivals, Evil Geniuses. But I think EG is going to want it more. That may be the difference maker. With that said, I'm worried about the team. They're playing with Dito, not Karma, this time against Optic Gaming. You might be right at the end of the day. So that's Group C. We went pretty deep on that, but I feel like we had some valid discussion. Let's go into our final Group D. And, man, I feel bad for Rise. Once again, if I could throw them into this group right now, I would.
Yeah.
Because I would love to see them come out on the winner's bracket side. Just get some confidence at the start of the tournament instead of just being beaten down. So, Team Caliber, FaZe, Salvo. I'm going to go ahead and put Salvo at number 3. The reason is I've never seen them play. They don't seem to be practicing as much as other squads. Saint, Stainville, Flawless, and Gucci, all stellar players. We've seen what they can do in the past. Flawless, always on top of the leaderboard, despite his minimal amounts of games played in our COD League and other tournaments. But how is this squad going to gel together? Do they have the potential to take out a Team Caliber or a FaZe?
They don't. I believe some of their placings are like a couple of them got 17th at Dallas. Flawless didn't participate at Dallas. This is their first event as a team. They're kind of like a couple of teams kind of, when SB kind of split, the players went to different places. Stainville to me is one of those guys that played at the same time as guys like Hastro. But is trying to just keep playing. He loves the game, I've asked Foreplay that before, just openly. What makes you keep playing? And it's kind of like the Brett Favre disease of just I love playing competitive Call of Duty. And I'm not saying that Stainville isn't still a great player and is not a pro player, but a lot of these young guys that have come up, a lot of these younger teams and these younger new players, your studies. I mean, these guys, the Zumas of the world, the classics. I mean, these guys are just scratching the surface of their success. And I think that Salvo, they're gonna try, but they'll beat the open team in my opinion. But I don't think they can take out TK or FaZe. And I think because TK has something to prove, FaZe definitely has something to prove as well, with all the drama surrounding their team, with each other on Twitter, YouTube, anything they could find to talk about each other on stream, yelling at each other. And now they have Karma. I think they have something to prove. They have too much to prove for Salvo to steal a victory from either one of them. And so they'll do okay, but they're not going to finish in the top 8 or anything like that.
All right, so Salvo, we'll see what happens with them. Hey, new teams, Saint. He's got a top 5 finish at UMG Dallas. Did it with
this is true.
Filling in last second with FaZe Black back in the day. So we'll see what they're bringing to the table. This one was
you're
a
talking about X
crapshoot,
Games. Yeah,
and the reason I have FaZe coming out on top of this pool, as we'll skip forward a little bit, we got about 20 minutes left in the show. I do want to get to our brackets. I have FaZe over Team Caliber. TK, they seem down. They seem a little bit upset. Season 3. They went on that last-minute run. They got excited. Then they had their hopes shattered by Noble Vanquish, Sharp, Theory, Neslo, and Gunjar. They've had their ups. They've had their downs. I never know what we're going to get out of this squad. And I think they definitely could easily, they could 3-0 FaZe if they're playing on top of their game and FaZe is off. But I'm willing to bet on Karma from FaZe. I think Karma, the only 2-time world champion in Call of Duty, I think he is bringing a lot of veteran leadership in this FaZe squad. They've argued nonstop on Twitter, on streams, everywhere else. But if you look back at what FaZe was like when you saw them at Gfinity, that was Censor and Parasite butting heads the night before. When it came tournament time, they were best friends. Apathy always shows up to LAN, and I think having Karma in person to talk through strategies and talk through frustrations, you're going to see a different mentality, different energy from this FaZe squad. I asked Parasite this morning, are we going to see the FaZe from UMG Dallas, or are we going to see the FaZe from Gfinity? He said, Gfinity, no doubt. How are things going with Karma? It's amazing. We're going to do great. So I think FaZe is ready to take out TK. I don't know how fired up TK is to face off against FaZe. What are your thoughts on this, Kingdom?
Well, both of these teams, in my opinion, this is either their, for TK, this could be their last event with this reunited roster that was supposed to come back together to win, and they just haven't seen the success they wanted. They didn't make it into the playoffs. And, you hear from a guy like Sharp, he's like, it's not that big of a deal. We all have social media things that we can do, and, it's not like getting into these tournaments is the only way we make money. But when you miss out on a $70,000 tournament, that hurts, and that's painful. And not everybody is like Sharp. Goonjar isn't making YouTube videos. And so I think that this team has a lot to prove. I think FaZe does as well. People forget that nobody's won more money playing competitive Call of Duty than Karma. He was a part of the Farico squad that went on a run. He was a part of the Complexity/EG squad that went on a run. He is one of the greatest players ever to pick up the sticks, even though he's been a little quieter on this game than he was on the previous game because his role has changed. He's not the roaming slayer that he was, that just was annihilating people, getting 21 kill streaks, in a competitive setting. However, I believe that FaZe and TK, if either one of them places outside of top 8, this is it for these two rosters. I think FaZe is going to edge out TK because they do have the karma factor, like you said. I think the karma factor is going to take them to victory, and I've seen a different side of Doug, of Censor, in these last month or so. He's been, even when he's frustrated, trying his hardest to do the right thing, and I believe that is a good aspect of his leadership, is being humble enough to take criticism from his teammates even when frustrated with them. And this team, regardless of how much they argue, they're like Farico back in the day. They're good. Yep. They're good at competitive Call of Duty. They have great players. They have great slayers on their team. They have some of the best players in the game on that roster together. And so if they click, it's over. They're going to run through TK. TK can steal it, as you said, but I have FaZe finishing out on top as well.
I like it, man. We agree on something, finally.
On something.
We agreed Optic Nation was coming out on top of Pool A. We agreed that FaZe is coming out on top of Pool D. Did you pick Denial as well for Group B?
I did.
Okay, so 3 out of 4. We're actually best friends. We only fight
bad.
sometimes.
Yeah. Not bad.
Guys, we're going to throw it to quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to dive deeper, taking a look at our brackets. Now, we form these opinions, of course, starting with the pools. But once you have your pools picked out, then you have to see how everything shakes out in the loser's bracket. So we took some time, went match by match, made some decisions. We'll show you who we think will finish in the top 8 after this.